Hey everybody, good afternoon. Sandra Sheffer, host of Racing the Races. I did do so this is about immigration. Like I needed to do a little bit segment on immigration because I had scheduled this. I did a 10-minute version of it, I believe, on Thursday, but I needed to talk about this more extensively because even after I did the 10-minute video, I keep running into the same situation. So what's this supposed to be about? I want to talk more about not posting your bond in a criminal case when you're if you have a ICE hold. So let's go from the basic. So one of the things that I don't really talk about that much as being the host of Racing the Races is the fact that I'm a practicing immigration attorney, and I've actually been an attorney practicing immigration law for like over 26 years. And the first version of the administration was rough, right? It was rough. It was a lot of crazy things that was happening, but this is on steroids. So I just thought it was real important that even though we do our immigration segment on Thursdays at 7 o'clock with Dr. Naomi Blamur and Christina Sanonjul, there's one component that I really wanted to get to speak on, and I'm hoping that it gets to the right audience. I did, like I said, posted a video on Wednesday, but I seem to have more trolls commenting on it than people that really need the information. So I wanted to do a full-length video here, post it on this platform, and hopefully it gets to the right audience. So why am I so adamant about talking about those folks that have ICE detainers not posting their bond on a criminal case is because they're going to go into ICE custody and not be able to come out. Well, not that they won't be able to come out. They're going to have a difficult time getting the resolution that they may want on their immigration case because they may find themselves, they meaning the person that's detained, may find themselves remaining in immigration custody too long and maybe not being able to complete their immigration case in a way that's in their best interest because they're going to have a pending case, since it's going to be difficult for that person who has a criminal case that's open to be transported back to criminal court to deal with their charge. Let's start from the beginning. So one of the things that's been happening is not one of the things. A category of folks that have been getting arrested by immigration is not the bad hombres that the president had said that they were really going to target. It's actually not even undocumented people, right? There was like, no, we want to get all the illegals out. We want to get all the undocumented people out. We want to get all of these people that we don't know that's in the United States. And we want to get all the bad hombres out of the United States. I want to tell you that that is not the category of folks that I mainly see as I do this immigration work, right? And even my colleagues, right? Like I said, I've been practicing immigration law for 26 years. I'm very familiar with the field, particularly on this level. And those are not the main population of folks that are finding themselves in custody. Most criminal law practitioners know that Florida has already had some very tough traffic laws. I mean, you can become a felon for driving while license suspended after your third conviction on a driving while license suspended can actually be charged with a felony. A lot of people don't know that. If you live in South Florida, meaning like mainly Dade and Broward County, they don't tend to do that. But if you're in other parts of the states, you can have a person that's in state prison, and literally the reason why they're there is because their third conviction on a traffic case. I give that example just to let you know that Florida tends to have very strict traffic laws, and a lot of people find themselves with criminal cases that they can't get themselves out of based on traffic, right? And it can usually start off with something as simple as you ran a stop sign, didn't pay your ticket for running the stop sign, and then your license gets suspended, and then the fees are added, and you got to pay for the ticket, you got to pay for the court costs, and you don't have that money, and then now you have a suspended license. But because we know in South Florida, transportation is terrible, public transportation is terrible, so then you find yourself driving even though you have a suspended license, then you get pulled over for something else because, we have all these reasons that are codified that you can stop someone, like not having the light on above your driver's license plate. You can get pulled over for that. Sometimes people get pulled over because their tints are a little too dark. They can pull you over for those types of things. And if you get pulled over for something as simple as not having a light on your license plate, then now they found out that you have a suspended license, you're about to get arrested again, and they're about to compile some more fees on a person who probably can't already pay the money that they owed, that put them in a situation where their driver's license was already suspended, right? And then, so that's one category of folks. Your driver while license suspended, so you can get that. That's the person who was able to get a license. Then, of course, it's hard to get a driver's license in Florida. It was easy before. September 11 made it harder, and now it's even harder than that to get a driver's license. So you have people who are here who may have an international driver's license or may have an out-of-state license, which for a long time you were able to drive in any, you're actually supposed to be able to drive as long as you have somebody issued you a driver's license, no matter what state it is, because we have this thing in the Constitution where they take full faith and credit of something that was issued by some governmental agency. So if a governmental agency in another state gave you a driver's license, you should be able to drive in Florida with a driver's license that's issued by another state. However, Florida doesn't want people to do that, right? And there were immigrant populations, because they could not get a driver's license in Florida, they were able to go to other states, get driver's license, and then they can drive in Florida with it. That should not be an illegal thing. That should be nothing wrong. That person went, passed the test to get the driver's license. They show that they can drive. They should be able to have the driver's license. But you cannot drive with in Florida with a driver's license that's not from the state of Florida. Okay. So I talk about this because now what's happening? You have people, immigrant populations who either have no valid driver's license, or they're driving in Florida with an out-of-state license, or they're a passenger in a vehicle with a person who did not have a valid Florida driver's license, or you didn't have a valid driver's license at all. So mind you, I just said the passenger. So the passenger in the car can get it too. They shouldn't, because there's no reason why the law enforcement officer should be speaking to a passenger in a car anyway. If all you're doing is sit in the car, what you need to talk to me for? Settle your problem with the person that was driving. But passengers can get it too. So what's happening? Once the person is stopped, now the law enforcement agency, they do have access to ICE information to find out whether or not the person has status. They're also asking individuals, do you have any status, and show us proof of your status. And once it's determined that the person does not have any status, they're being arrested, and there's automatically an ICE hold that's being put on that person, right? So for whatever reason, people think post a bond, get out of custody, get out of criminal custody, and then go to ICE, right? Thinking that they're going to get a bond in ICE. Well, that's not happening, right? Because depending on what it is, and if that case isn't resolved, the judge in immigration does not have to give you a bond, because when they're making determinations about whether or not a person should get a bond or not, they have to determine, is the person a flight risk? Is the person a danger to the community? Now, if, given the immigration climate right now, a lot of judges are saying, yeah, these people are flight risk. Why would they want to come back and cooperate with immigration when the laws are getting tough? They may not have a lot of ways in order for them to have some sort of lawful status in the United States. So once that judge in immigration court determine you're a flight risk, you're not going to get a bond. And then if all you did was maybe be a passenger, then they may not say you're a danger to the community, because, you didn't do anything to show that you're a danger to the community, but they can go back to that. I think this person's a flight risk, and I'm not going to let them post a bond. So now you're stuck in immigration, can't post a bond, and you have an open case in criminal court that you can't resolve, because immigration is not going to send you back to criminal court to get that matter resolved. And now, if you have counsel, they have to get a court order from a judge to sign off in order for you to get that matter resolved. And the judges may or may not be willing to do that, because it's like, this case isn't that serious, but understand the state would have to decide that they don't want to go forward on that case to dismiss it. So you can actually get deported from the United States and have an open case pending. When did this can become an issue if you have a family member, if at some point you have a family member who wants to petition for you, whether it be a spouse that got status, a child that's over the 21, that's over the age of 21, that's a United States citizen, you're going to run into some issues with these open cases. I started off with a simple example of traffic cases, because that's, the main that's a big category of folks and ways in which people are being encountered with immigration is from a traffic stop in the state of Florida. Now, another category is folks of people who are finding themselves getting arrested on domestics. like domestic battery or just a battery case. People get into disputes, you're getting into fights, you're getting into arguments. People are scared that it's going to get out of control. So they call the police. And then now the police is here and they realize ain't nobody got no papers. You're getting arrested. They're going to put a hold on you. Now, mind you, either have a domestic battery case, you have a simple battery case, whatever it is, right? And then people, because on the domestic battery, the judge has to set a bond in that case. So if on that domestic, the judge sets a bond for you to get released and you go and post that bond and you go over to immigration, you're going to have some problems because now you have an open domestic case that who knows if you're ever going to get it resolved, because immigration has no obligation to send you back to criminal court to deal with your case, right? And then understand, when you're sitting in immigration custody, you're not getting any credit time towards that open case you have. Because what if it turns out that you are in fact guilty of whatever it is you were arrested for, and the judge was going to sentence you to some jail or some time in the county jail? You're not, all that time you spend in immigration, which can end up being months, none of it counts towards time that you would save, that you would serve in a criminal case, right? So you're sitting in immigration doing what? Wasting time. Stay in pretrial detention, resolve your criminal case before you go into ICE custody, because ICE custody is becoming a wasteland. Now, so that's part of it, right? So on the domestic, you have it open. There's no assurances you're going to be able to go back and forth to resolve it. If it's a misdemeanor, there are ways that an attorney can enter a plea on your behalf without you being there. That's only on a misdemeanor case. Now, if you're arrested on a felony, nope, the lawyer can't do that. The judge wants to see you. How you gonna get the judge to see you? We don't know. We don't know. And even so, there are a bunch of things that you cannot do in immigration court because you have open cases. So say, for example, you were eligible to adjust your status to that of a lawful permanent resident based on an application that was filed by a parent or a spouse or a child over the age of 21. With an open felony case, you can't adjust. You got to go deal with that felony case. And if there's no way to get you transported back with some sort of court order to deal with that felony case, it's going to be open and you're not going to be able to adjust your status in the United States. And you know what? The judges in immigration court do not have to wait for you to figure out how you're going to resolve your criminal case before they make a decision on the case that's in front of them, right? So they can order you removed, because the other thing that can happen is that you can adjust your status from a foreign country. That's a process that's called consular processing. You would have to do it that way, right? And again, you may run into some problems getting that done because you got an open felony case in a criminal court because you decided to bond out and not stay there and resolve that matter and then go sit in a wasteland they call ICE custody, right? Now so that's part of it, right? That you're going to be here. You're not going to be able to resolve your case. That's probably the easy part, because you may be able, if you get a judge in immigration court that's reasonable, you get an attorney in criminal court that's willing to file all the necessary motions with the court for the judge to get you transported back to criminal court to deal with your case, then yes. But you know what's happening? People are getting transported. They start off at Chrome, then they end up in New Mexico or Texas or California or Louisiana, and they used to sell people to Colorado. So if you get sent to one of those facilities that are out of states, the odds of a judge signing a court order enforcing anyone to bring you back from out of state, I'm not saying it's impossible because God can do all things, but the chances of that happening is really slim to none, right? The odds of it happening is really like it's not going to happen, right? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a very difficult proposition to get people to decide that they're going to spend money to go bring you back from California, Texas, New Mexico. And when you're going to Texas, you're not going into no major city. You're going into some small town that somebody doesn't know how you're going to get there. You got to take plane, trains, automobiles, and all kind of stuff to get there. When they're sending you to places in New Mexico, they are not sending you to Albuquerque, nowhere with no major airport. You're going into a small town, and it's a lot of effort to get you back. So the odds of that happening is very difficult. So if you get arrested and you have a bond, do not post that bond. Just stay there in criminal court, resolve your case before you go into ICE custody. The other thing with ICE custody, it is very overcrowded. Don't let them tell you that it's not. It is very overcrowded in ICE custody, so much so that at the Chrome Service Detention Center, they're thinking about building tent cities. I think they had started constructing one outside. I was there the other day and I didn't look to see if it was there, but there's word on the street that they were going to try to set up a facility that would house 800 people. Remind you, we are in South Florida. Hurricane season starts June 1st. It lasts 8 months. How you gonna have people in tents in hurricane season in Florida? So that's a whole, like, who are they talking to? How does that make sense? It makes absolutely none, right? But these are things that we're dealing with, right? So don't go into ICE custody so you could be in an overcrowded space where you're gonna the medical services are not that great. At one of the facilities here, they have one doctor for 500 people, and the doctor isn't even on site. The doctor is on call. Really? You don't want that. And since January, at least 6 people have died in ICE custody because of lack of proper medical care. Now, they may say that's not it, but all 6 of those folks were complaining before they died. They were complaining out of a headache, stomach ache, something. They were complaining about some health issue that wasn't looked into properly, and the person ended up dying. Now, they may have died anyway, but the fact that they didn't get immediate medical treatment and sent to a hospital to deal with whatever was going on, listen, you don't need that. So don't go into ICE custody. Stay in the county jail, resolve your criminal case, and once it's resolved, then let them transfer you over to ICE custody, because either you're gonna get sent over there with a charge that's dismissed, which is good for you because now you don't have a conviction. Or they can get it. You could, if it is, say it was a felony battery, you may be able to get it reduced to something that's not going to make you removable from the United States. So stay there and resolve your case. Now, if you're like, well, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time, then what you do is do not waive your right to a speedy trial. Do not waive your right to a speedy trial when you go to your arraignment. And so on a misdemeanor case in Florida, the state has 90 days to prosecute that case. And on a felony case, it's 175 days. So at best, you'll be in the facility, you'll be in the county jail for 6 months at most to resolve these cases if you don't waive your right to a speedy trial. But the most important thing is that once you get into ICE custody, or the attorney that's going to help you knows where you stand when it comes to criminal cases. All the matters are resolved and there's nothing open. And so it's a very important thing to do. Do not post that bond and go into ICE custody for all the reasons that I said. You don't want to go there with an open case because you may not be able to get a bond to get out of ICE, because the 2 things that they look for is danger to the community and flight risk. And if you got a criminal case and the rules are continuously changing with immigration, the judges can make a case. The judge don't make the case. The government can make a case that you may be a flight risk, particularly if you do not have strong community ties, meaning parents, spouse, children that are lawful permanent residents and citizens, or you have like an application pending that's going to position you to get a green card, or if you don't have, say you're from one of the countries where an asylum case is viable, if you don't have a strong asylum case that's already pending, you may find yourself not being able to have any relief with an order of deportation, and you're going to get sent back with an open case that in the moment can be problematic and in the future can be problematic. So resolve your criminal cases before you go into ICE custody. Don't be in a rush to post your bond. And now, these folks that want to drive with no valid license, stop doing it. Stop driving. Even if you got a valid license, stop driving. Don't pay Uber, pay Lyft, figure it out, because what is going to cost you sitting in the county jail or sitting in ICE custody for however month is far less than what it's going to cost you if you take a Lyft or take a Uber or whatever to get to work or wherever it is that you're going. Now, I'm not encouraging people to work without documentation. I don't know what you're doing. But the reason why I say take a Lyft is because we actually have people who have work authorization, who have social security numbers, who have filed their applications for asylum, who have temporary protected status that's already granted, and they're being picked up and they're being detained by ICE and they don't want to let them go, even though they have relief, right? So, and relief means that they have lawful status, at least in the moment, in the United States, right? Or a way to get lawful status in the United States for the moment. So they have relief and they're being detained. So this person who's been here however many years and never filed anything, the only benefit that may do for you is if the judge is willing to let you leave with voluntary departure. That means that you have to have a valid passport that you can travel on, and you're willing to buy your own plane ticket, and and you're going to go back. And the benefit of that is at least you're getting sent back without an order of deportation. And then so if you're trying to come back into the United States, your chances are better because you don't have an order of deportation. So if you want to go into ICE custody in order for you to get voluntary departure instead of leaving on your own, then go ahead and go over there for that. But otherwise, don't post that bond, resolve your criminal case, get an attorney to help you to make sure you're making the best decision that's for you and for your family, right? Now, another thing that I see is there are nationals from certain countries that, they get into ICE and they're like, I just want to go, just deport me, just deport me, just deport me. So now some of them are doing that probably because they're going to try to come right back. I'm not recommending that either, because you know what? It's better for you to try to get an order of voluntary departure, and then go instead of like taking an order to leave because you're going to just try to sneak back in. Don't do that, because that's a federal offense to re-enter the United States after deportation. That's a federal offense. That is a federal offense. So you don't want to do that either. So just sit tight, resolve your case, try to get voluntary departure, do the best. And then if you got to go, then you go. But don't go thinking you're about to be slick and just roll yourself back up in here, because if you get caught rolling yourself back up in here, they can prosecute you in federal court for re-entry after deport. So we need to be careful about that, right? So the main point I want to make today, if you get arrested for whatever reason, if they give you a bond, don't pay it. Don't pay it. Just don't pay it at all, because I'm not going to say until nothing. Don't pay it. Resolve your case before you get sent to ICE custody. Resolve your case before you get sent to ICE custody. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself, is to resolve your case before you get sent into ICE custody, because you're creating way more problems for yourself, and it gets more expensive. And oftentimes folks just don't have the type of money that they're going to need for this to work out the way they need it to work out in the best possible ways. Because there are things that can be done, but it can get costly, and you wasted your money posting that bond, because you posted that bond to just go sit in ICE, right? And we talked about lack of proper medical care. All of the places are overcrowded. When you hear on the street that people are sleeping on the floor, they sleeping on the floor. That's not fiction, that's fact, right? So don't go. The places are overcrowded. Don't go. And worst of all, to me, being overcrowded and not having proper medical care is terrible and bad in and of itself. But what the big thing is that they're sending people to facilities out of state. You can end up in New Mexico, Texas, California, Colorado, wherever, and you don't want that. You do not want that. You do not want that. You do not want that. So be very careful. And the other thing, so remember I talked a little bit about the people who had temporary protected status, and they had already filed for their asylum application, and they have already had their social security number, and they already had their work authorization. So they did all the things that people want or say they wanted for immigrants to do, but they're still getting picked up and finding themselves in custody, right? Now, one of the ways attorneys, advocates were getting folks out was that they were filing habeas corpus petitions to say that these people are being unlawfully detained. That's a winner, because it's true. But guess what? Now, as I saw something yesterday, but they may have spoken about it before. Now they're trying to get rid of people being able to file habeas corpus petitions. Listen, this is scary times, people. This is very scary times. You can be as anti-immigrant as you want to. But what I do want to tell you is the process and the procedures and the ways that they're violating the law in order for them to just so they can say, oh, we want to just keep this country free of immigrants and bad immigrants and all of this stuff. No. That's not what's happening. They're tricking people to think that it's okay to get rid of habeas corpus. It's okay to not care about due process, that it's okay, to treat people, to send people to foreign countries, that they're not from. They're making you think that it's okay. But immigrants is just a group that they're targeting now because they think people are going to be okay with it. But the way they're stripping all of these protections, they can do that to any American for any category of folks that they decide to pick on next. So that's why you can't be okay with this, right? One of the other things that they're doing, like there's a group of people who were granted something that's called withholding of removal or relief under the Torture Convention. And basically what that is that they come from countries where they have been able to convince meeting their burden of proof to an immigration judge that going back to their native country would be detrimental to their life, that they would be persecuted if they were to return to their native country. And the judges agreed with that. And so they released them back and gave them just the ability to work, but not the ability to travel outside the United States. This administration wants to be able to send these people to third countries. Now, that was something that could have always been done, but oftentimes third countries don't want to take foreign nationals that don't have status in their country. But now there's Panama. There's some agreement with Panama. Panama got some money for something else, but in exchange for taking this money, they're saying that they're willing to accept some of these nationals as the third country that. And the people the respondents who were granted withholding of removal and Convention Against Torture. Remember, understand that America cannot send them back to their native countries because they've proven to an immigration judge that if they went back to their home country, they would lose their life. But they have, again, America did always have the right to send them to a third country, but for the most part, most third countries won't accept them if they can't get status in that country. But Panama's like, okay, we're going to take them, right? But Panama's also one of those countries, show us how you're going to be legal here. Panama's also saying that. So they're going to take them, and then they're going to be like, well, show us how you're going to be legal here. And of course, the people are like, well, I don't know how I'm going to be legal here. I don't know nobody in Panama. I wasn't trying to come to Panama. And so now, you know what Panama's going to do? Panama is going to send them back to their home country, their native country. That's not okay. That's not okay. So essentially America is really sending them back, but they're going to blame it on Panama because Panama is accepting them. But Panama is also going to require them to show how is it that you can remain in our country lawfully, or how is it you're going to be able to obtain lawful status in our country. And if you can't show us that, then we're going to have to send you back to where you were born, your native country, because they're not going to send them back to America, right? So these are the kind of things that are happening. And, I want you guys to share this information. Let anybody that's an immigrant to prepare themselves. Don't drive if you don't have to, because they're really, they're, especially in Florida, they're really overutilizing the tough traffic laws that we already have to stop people, find out who their status, and and put them in custody. And essentially, a lot of them are getting removed from the United States just from that. And the other thing that's happening, there's a lot of profiling going on. They are profiling folks, okay? There's a lot of profiling going on because people are like, I was just at the store, get me some coffee, and then the police officer or whoever it was just stopped me, started talking to me, asked me about my papers, and here I am sitting here today. And I'm telling you, because those folks have no criminal history whatsoever. The end of it, no criminal history whatsoever. Okay. And they're sitting in there because they're also being profiled. We should not be okay with any of this happening. Right. So don't post a bond if out of criminal court. Resolve your case first before you get into ICE custody. Now, get an immigration attorney. There are a lot of, if you can't afford one, there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are doing good work. You can get that information from the court. You can look it up. Make sure your family put a plan together on what they want to do if it happens. And if both of y'all don't have no status and you got some children, don't be together. When y'all go out, in case they pick one up, at least the kids got somebody. Try to avoid that because they're gonna pick everybody up. You know what I mean? That's how they're saying, okay, we're gonna send American citizens back because they want to send the children back with the undocumented parents. So these are things like you really have to be strategic in what it is that you're doing. And if you don't have to drive, man, really don't, because again, the traffic stops are problematic, and people finding themselves domestic situation. That's the other category of folks that I see a lot. And I am not don't you dare take my words to say that I'm telling people to stay in situations situations that they find dangerous, and they don't want to get law enforcement involved if they think their life is in danger or something is going on. But what I'm telling you, those arguments that's getting out of hand, if you think you're about to do that, go outside, take a walk, go sit in the back, go into another room. Don't get into these fights. Don't get into these confrontations. Don't get into the arguments, because the neighbor's going to call the police if y'all talking too loud because they don't know what's going on, right? So just, really try to figure out some different type of coping tools and skills in order for, your family to get past what's happening with this administration. And one of the reasons why they keep changing, they meaning the administration, continue to try to take away more rights is because the things that they're doing, they're losing. They're losing in court. There are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are doing very good work, and the administration is losing. And even in judges that were appointed by Republican presidents in the federal system are saying like, no, you can't do this. So now they're trying to find all different kind of ways to circumvent the law to do this. And that's why we need Congress to toughen up. And if they're not, we need people to decide that they're going to run against all these folks that are running for re-election, because the House of Representatives, they have to run every 2 years. Run against them, run against those senators that are up, because they are not doing the work of the people. They were sent there to legislate. They decided not to do that. We're supposed to have 3 co-equal branches of government, and they're allowing the president to also be the legislative branch by doing things by executive orders. Executive orders are not permanent, and they do not have to remain in place. So if Congress would at least do a little bit of the work they were sent there to do, they can stop a lot of what this administration is doing. But however, these congressional folks are scared, and we need people to run against them and at least let them know that folks are not willing to continue to tolerate what's happening, right? Again, even if you're the most anti-immigrant person in the world, you should not be okay with the procedures and the process and the ways that they're violating laws in order for them to execute the agenda of Project 2025 and this current president of the United States. So I talked a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I just really wanted to make sure I got this video done. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, but subscribe to the YouTube channel, because there are a lot more shorts there that you can see of the clips, and share this information with somebody who any person that undocumented, documented, lawful permanent residents of the United States, because there are ways that they're trying to attack that category of folks too. Share this information. If you have any questions, send me a message and I'll try to answer it as best as I can. Thank you so much for your time on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much for your time in the afternoon, and have a good day. Have a good one. I think I'm trying to find, someone sent me a message. Let's see what they said. Very important information. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm definitely trying to get that information out there, because I'm seeing this on a daily basis, and I'm telling you, some of it is avoidable, and I don't want to, and I try not to say that to the folks when I'm talking to them, because they already feel bad, and I used to say it was Jamaicans that I learned this from, but I heard this is also an African proverb about prevention is better than cure. So try to prevent yourself from being in this situation, instead of like when you're in it, you're trying to figure a way out. Just try to prevent it, instead of trying to figure a way out. So that's why I thought it was important to come out and, just give this message and share it with people that you know. And again, if you have any questions, just go ahead and send me a message. Have a good day, everybody. Elections have consequences.